Hey, welcome to the channel one more time. I'm glad to see you here. Unfortunately, I don't videotape a lot of what I'm doing because it's actually a bit inconvenient, the timing isn't right, etc. But anyway, I want to create a video, and on this video I want to share with you some of the misinformation that's going on that really is not the truth. I've got 6 months experience, and so I'm going to share with you on that video. Hey, so let me talk about space. I've got this space is 5 feet wide, and it's about 10 feet from back there to here. And then I got another bin, which is 6 foot. I believe in these 6 feet bin. Let me just show you. That's the bin. They're lined with plastic, okay? And I used to have those other little tray bins. The problem with those bins, I'm going to tell you flat out, is, well, each bin is its own ecosystem. And so when you're dealing with 10, 12, whatever I had, that's different ecosystems. And so one bin can suffer and the other one not. So here, the detail with this is, with 6 feet, the worms have somewhere to go, right? So it's much more forgiving. Now, I ran across a video, and it's not only one video, many videos, where the person is demonstrating, oh, how the bin is too moist, it's too wet. Let me tell you guys something that happened. So I've got these little kitty litter, okay, for stuff. I had stuff. And what I did was the first bit of compost, finished compost, vermiculture compost, that I had, I put it in here, about that much. And I noticed some of these fungus gnats. And so what I did was add some of that water, just a bit of water, but it was enough to make it a little bit wet. And I shut it, okay, shut it. Let me backtrack. So I put a little tiny food trap to capture any tiny little worms that were in there. I didn't see many, maybe 1 or 2 tiny ones, and I put that in there. But I looked at it every so often, and nothing really, it was crazy. But I forgot about it. And just the other day, I opened it up, and I'm like, whoa. It was mud, like mud, black mud. And I'm looking at the worms, and there's a lot of worms. And they're healthy. And they're doing good. I grabbed them and I put them, set them on top here, and they went about their business. And I had a bunch of little ones that are big ones, and I think there were about 15 worms in there. But the point is, they were healthy. So this conversation about a bin being too wet, no. Listen, as long as what you're putting in there is not something that hasn't gone through the composting, okay? In other words, you basically can create anaerobic activity. But what was in there was castings. So how did they survive with essentially no food for 2 months? No food and simply castings, the fine material casting. This stuff right here. The stuff that doesn't stick to your hands. Beautiful. So let's go ahead with the misconception about bin being too wet is not good. Actually, opposite. The worms, what I'm finding is this. They like wet. All right? Not just for breeding. Worms like wet. What I have here is too dry. But I'm trying to get rid of what I've got because I've got a lot of castings over here in this area. All right? Lots of castings. I'm still trying to get rid of this stuff. Slowly. But I wanted to state this fact. I wanted to state what's critically important, misinformation. Okay? The worms, if the worm bin's too wet, it's not good. No, it's okay and it's very beneficial. The worms love wet. And the wetness is created by what? Let's question that. Well, first and foremost, my bins are lined with this plastic. So let's address some things, some questions. Why are the bins always around the corner areas and around the edges? Moisture. There's your answer. That's where the most moisture is, alongside the plastic. They love moisture. Okay? I know we look at it and go, well, I don't know if I'd want to be in there. Well, that's why you're not a worm. Worms like wet. Now, you got to watch it. What I'm saying is, if you've got stuff that isn't composted, then you can start creating anaerobic activity. But if you got a bin like this and you flip it once a week, right? Just go get your hands in there and flip it. You're good. But they like it wet. So what was in that bin there that it was so wet? Because it was just simply castings, and the water that I put in there wasn't that much to create a mucky, literally muddy situation. Well, my friends, the answer is bacteria. See, the worms don't just consume the food, the paper, etc. They will reconsume the castings. And inside those castings is bacteria. So let's address a misconception. What's the worm's number one food? It's not bananas or oranges or cantaloupe. As a matter of fact, it's not sweets. It's none of that. And that's another misconception that you hear. Oh, the worms really love this. No, the number one food that the worms love is bacteria and fungi. That's what they love to eat. So, if you were to put a cantaloupe, okay, in a bin, they won't hit the cantaloupe right away, even though it's juicy and all that, because the bacteria hasn't hit it. The reason they're around that area eating away is because it's full of living bacteria. They're consuming the bacteria. It's not that they like the sweet. Bacteria thrive on sugars. You want to grow bacteria, you got to feed them sugar. Fungi is different. You need to get into the kelps and seaweeds, etc. Cardboards, etc. Right? And I've got fungally dominated compost. What the worms are creating here is not the worms, actually. It's the fungi and the bacteria. Fungi is a completely different creature. It's not even in the same realm as bacteria. And so, to answer the question about that wet bin, what happens is you get this re-eating and regurgitating, re-eating, regurgitating, and these bacteria continue to come, because not all of them are dead, and they come alive and they eat the dead bacteria, and you got this constant flow of stuff going in, stuff coming out, getting wetter and wetter, finer and finer, like a clay substance. In this case, it was muddy substance. So they're eating. Not the food that you want to give them, that I want to give them, but they're eating bacteria. And that's why they're thriving. Okay? So they don't, it's not that they like sweets and bananas or cantaloupes. No, they love bacteria. So if you want to feed the worms, you want to feed them bacteria. Right? And how do you feed them bacteria? Obviously with the organic matter, even cardboards, etc. Because what you see here is cardboard and paper. And then my bokashi, which is, again, an integral part of this system. Because why do I encourage bokashi? Well, that's probably for another video, I would say. Maybe just touch upon it, because I got lots to go on here. If you haven't subscribed, you want to subscribe and click the like button. But people are giving all this misinformation, okay, and freaking people out. Your bin shouldn't look like a dump site. It shouldn't look scary, because you're going to remember, if you're trying to, I don't know like what you're trying to do. But the reason, what I'm trying to do is a big mission here. The reason why I got involved in this is because I believe that the end process, the packaging is done by the worms. But everything else has to function so that you can get organic waste that people are dumping in the dump sites, cleaning off their dinner plates, throwing it out, and causing essentially a problem for some of you that believe in, this global warming thing. I'm not looking at it from that aspect, because I don't even believe that. But what I do believe is people are throwing out gold and then buying these fertilizers that is man-made garbage. So what should we be doing? We should be focusing on how to get rid of organic waste and turn it into something that is producing that we can use to produce more food. But I don't see that happening in the worm thing. Well, I see it every so often. I'll see someone, but most people are just like showing you, oh, look at my worms, and this is the hobby I have, and I'm raising worms. And some of the bins are messy. Just why would anyone looking at that want to do that? I wouldn't want to do it. So there's got to be a way that we can come about showing the process. Like I asked my wife just a week ago, is this what you expected? And she blatantly said, actually, no. Why? Because there's no smells in here. So you got a lot of misinformation, okay, and how difficult this is. And what I'm trying to do is make it simple. Okay, I'm working on something that is going to essentially be a product. Because if you're thinking about doing this worm business, right, to do the worm business, well, I will say this. You won't get rich, number one. And you got to put some work into it, but there's got to be a bigger reason for doing it. And I've got that reason. The reason is that you want to show people how to stop wasting and to turn that into valuable compost so that they can grow their own stuff and at least learn how to be self-sufficient. Okay? That's what we should be doing now. So if you're looking to raise worms as a hobby, that's your business. I mean, that's not what I'm looking into. Okay, if you want to show someone how to keep worms alive, and feed them, just a little bit of your table scraps every so often, you could do that. But I'm trying something bigger. I'm doing something bigger. As a matter of fact, I might be out of my mind, but I think that I can have essentially one of the biggest I'm not even going to go there. Not today. I'm going to leave that for the next video. So what am I getting to here? I'm saying, look, if you want to do this as a hobby and have some worms as a hobby, that's not why I'm doing this. Okay, we've got problems on the dinner table, waste. And if we're throwing waste out, which is actually not waste, but could be potentially beneficial for growing stuff, and every one of us should learn how to grow stuff. So that means that we don't have to go out and get fertilizers, because essentially what's happening is we're using man-made products to solve a problem that doesn't exist if you start implementing natural products. Okay? And so that's what I'm doing. Bokashi takes, and why is bokashi important? Well, because we got food waste. And bokashi, what it does, what a lot of you don't probably get, never even heard of, it's okay, we stick with this channel, we're going to teach you. Bokashi ferments the food. Okay? If you just take simple dinner scraps and throw them in the worm bin, then you're not eradicating any unbeneficial bacteria. Like E. coli, for example. That's why people say don't use meats and stuff. I use it all. So the key, though, is that you want a process by which those unbeneficial bacteria get snuffed out, and that's by lactic acid. So these lactic acid bacteria snuff out any kind of potential problems, okay, in that process of fermentation. So that's why you want to put your food into the bokashi, have the bokashi process do its thing, therefore no more problematic bacteria inside that. Then you introduce them to the oxygenated, okay, aerobic activity, where they, because of the bokashi, will develop into a fungi, which is a much more powerful fungi, as far as I'm concerned, is much more powerful at eradicating difficult organic matter, and the process by which it's done through vomiting out enzymes and then eating up those enzymes, they extract the nutrients from that goodness that's in there. So whatever's coming off your table that the lactic acid bacteria is worked on is all there still. And then when the fungi start hitting that, they start grasping all that nutrients everything that's good there and maintaining it. And the worms love fungi, and the worms love bacteria. Anyway, this video is getting a little long, but I wanted to address a couple things here. Yeah, wetness on bins. Misinformation. Misinformation. They love wet. Okay? Just don't let it go without looking at it. Flip it every so often. You'll be okay. Number 2, worms' favorite food is bacteria and fungi. Okay? Not bananas, not cantaloupes. Just put one of those in the worm bin and you'll see they won't go there right away. Why? Because there's no bacteria, not enough stuff there. What does bokashi do? Millions and trillions of bacteria. But you don't want to just grab the bucket and give them that food, because it's not going to work out for you. So I'm doing my best to make this as simple as I can to give you that information. So subscribe and click the like button if this was informative on at least those 2 things. Because on the next video, I'm going to share with you my ambition in this project to actually make an impact in the world. And that's how you're going to be able to sell some worms collectively. So I just bought a domain called uberworms.com. There's nothing on it yet. But I'm putting together what I believe is a system by which collectively we can create the solution to the problem, which is food waste, but we can also create a market where you will be able to sell your worms and give these individuals proper information, collectively unified in one purpose and one way of doing this, so that we don't have all these different ways that we're doing this. Okay? So until the next one, we'll see you. Take care.